So welcome back. If you're just joining us, remember the hashtag is KTN Business Coach at KTN Home across all social media platforms, at Ian Dennis Network also across all social media platforms. You can ask your question, you feel free. I'm going to air it out to Wanjiku. So Wanjiku, we were discussing about the future of events prior to the break, and I'd like just to change this conversation. And I want to take you back from when you set up Waridi. Did you ever envision that you would have achieved so much as you have? Because earlier on you're talking about most of your clients are international events. I think you're the very few companies handling so many international clients as you are. Did you ever envision this?
No, I don't think I did. Because I think we talked about adapting earlier on. When we started, we were a website, a wedding and events website. So I never thought that we would get into the space of planning large corporate events. For me, I think as we grew is when the dream became realistic that it's actually possible for us to go. So I didn't start with this end in mind, but I'm pretty happy about where our Waridi is. Yeah.
All right, I'd like you now to take me through the process of now scaling up, because you started off as an events website. What exactly prompted you to go now into consultants in the event space, and how did you, okay, let's just start with that and then I can just jump. I have so many things to ask.
Okay, so what prompted us to change is we realized when we started off, I think our business then was a bit ahead of its time, because internet penetration in Kenya was low. There were just a lot of factors that wouldn't have made that business model work. So we realized there was an opportunity. By having the website, we had a lot of brides asking us information about the local industry. So we realized these people actually need someone to do the running around for them locally. And that's how we started getting into the wedding planning service. We did wedding planning for 3 years. And what made us actually switch into the corporate space is because one of our clients had a difficulty in getting someone who could understand their brand and translate that into an event. So we realized the opportunity that there were a lot of people in the corporate space, but they weren't very, very familiar with what brands were, especially international brands. So that made us switch into the corporate event space. So for us, I think the thing that has helped us scale has been identifying opportunity and also being very, very clear about what value add we bring to clients. It's always been the same since we started. We're all about translating people's, the company's brands into experiences. So I think those two have really, really helped. And then of course you add excellence, because in an industry like ours that has such low barrier of entry, if you're excellent, you naturally attract the cream of the crop in terms of clients. Yeah.
Right. Considering right now we're going through the pandemic, and we spoke earlier on about business models being disrupted, and right now as a business, I know most of the events you have to have suppliers come. So do you think people are going to go into the lease model, or are they going to still want to own, what's it called, in terms of the whole value chain, own their own suppliers? Let's say you own your own chairs, own your own speakers. What do you think is going to be the future of events in terms of that particular business model, leasing or owning?
I think the thing is, one of the things that has really plagued us as an industry is this whole copycatting thing. So I'm hoping that this particular season teaches people that we can actually collaborate. I don't have to bring in the same chair as my competitor. You can bring in a different chair and we can work together. So that's one of the things that I'm seeing. A lot of people will lease because you'll realize probably it doesn't make sense for me to own all this furniture, putting all this capital into one thing. I'm better off having a bit and leasing out from a competitor. That's one of the things that I see will come out. We'll have leaner businesses. Events businesses have been known to be very big and very extravagant. So you see things like people remote working, freelancers being hired instead of having permanent staff on payroll. So definitely even how we work as an industry is going to change because of this. Yeah.
And you set up an academy, the Already Academy, to teach people about events.
Yes.
Take me through what exactly prompted that, and how exactly are you going about educating people right now?
Yeah, so I think we met, when we last met, we hadn't started the Events Academy. So we launched that last year. So we launched it out of a frustration of trying to get event planners who are locally trained. So there are people who do train event planners, but the curriculum is not local. And you can't compare doing a wedding in the UK to doing a wedding in Nairobi. So one of the things we decided to do was actually put together our experience, because I co-founded it with my business partners and one of my colleagues. So we put together our experience in events, and then we looked at how our journeys have been as event planners, and we were able to create something local that someone can come and do. So the frustration of trying to find people who understand the market was what led us to create the academy. And then also the quest for excellence, because as I mentioned earlier, events is a very low barrier of entry industry. So you find any Tom, Dick and Harry calls themselves an event planner, but we thought if we train, we'll be able to differentiate between excellence and mediocrity. Yeah.
All right, so I'd like to ask you a couple of questions because I posted that you're coming on the show, and several guys sent me some questions to ask you. So the first one comes from a gentleman called Mark, and he asks, how do you determine how much to charge for consulting for an event? Because I know that's one of the biggest issues that come out there. He's a guy who wants to get into this business, but the biggest challenge, how much do I charge for consulting?
Okay, so there are three models. One, you can do a percentage of the event budget. Two, you can decide to have a flat fee. So you calculate your business costs and you say, okay, these are my business costs, add my profit, and you have a flat fee. And then there's also hours pricing. That's what a lot of lawyers, like how lawyers price, where you sit down and you look at the scope of the project, and then you decide the project will take X amount of hours, and then you multiply it by your fee, which will include your costs and your profit. It's very difficult. That's the best I can do in terms of summarizing it, because if I get into the nitty-gritties, we're going to be here all night. So if you want, he can write and I can give him the formulas. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So another question comes from a gentleman called Greg, and he asks, I want to go into events. Which route makes more sense, setting up my events or consulting for clients? Sort of like a similar question, but much.
Yes, I think I would start with consulting for clients. And the reason why is when you consult for people, you get to learn everything about events from someone else's budget. If you put out your budget in terms of capital and you start your own events, there's a learning curve that you won't, it will be a very steep learning curve. So you'd rather just consult for clients, work for an events agency, get to know the inner workings, grow your networks, learn how to have events on the different budgets that are required for events, the different events that are popular. You get to do a lot of research before now you sink in your capital. So that's the approach I would advise, especially if he's a newbie. Just start with being a consultant. Then once you get to the market, now you invest in a brand asset or an event. Yeah.
All right. And there's a final question from a lady called Mary, and she asks, have you had failed events, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, failure is part of the it's part of learning, and it's expected. And sometimes the failures don't even come from you. They could come from a vendor not delivering what is supposed to happen. They could come from a client not also delivering their end. So I think it's expected. But what we've done is we've learned to sit down and look at all events, and we have like what is it called, a learning manual. So from each event we do a report, and we're able to see what are the things that didn't necessarily go well in that event, what can we do to address them, and that's how you get better. You get better through the things that you feel. So it's part of it. And I'd tell you, like any entrepreneur, like any business, you will fail. So you have to have the heart to fail. Yeah.
All right, and just finally, I'd like just to get your insights, because you know you've been in the entrepreneurship game, and you've been in this particular industry for quite a while, and you happen to be through it, or rather you'll be through it through this season. What are some of the insights you've gained through your journey? What are some of the lessons that you'd like to share to the audiences who are watching this?
I think the first thing is know your value add. Our industry is one of those where people go to China, buy chairs, you come back. But you see, in the long run, clients will always ask you, what is it you're bringing to the table? So you really need to know, what are you bringing to the table in terms of value add. Something else that I've seen that has helped us is continuous learning. Again, you go bring your chairs and you don't bother to figure out how you can add value to these particular chairs. You need to learn. You need to keep on learning. Even right now, I'm currently learning as we're speaking, because COVID is coming, so we need to figure out how to do safe events. So you need to continuously learn, invest in training yourself, and then I think also you need to have some level of standards. I keep on saying you can either stand up for something or fall for anything. You have to be excellent in your work, in whatever you deliver, because if you have clients that are satisfied, you won't struggle in terms of getting your sales, because you naturally attract people to you. Yeah.
All right, I highly appreciate your time, Wanjiku, and I'm wishing you all the best.
Yeah.
All right, and just finally,
Yes.
I think for any person who probably wants to join your class, how can we go about it?
They can send us an email on hello@waridevents.com, or they can go, because we actually do have an online community of event startups on our handle at Events Academy KE on Instagram. So they can go check out, send us a DM, and we can be able to sort them out in terms of giving them information about the course and everything. But they should not share away, because like in the community we give away free information about how one can start the event planning business. So they should just join. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for having gotten time to speak to us, and I'm wishing you all the best through this particular season. I think as you've heard, you can actually join the Waridi community to actually learn more about setting up events. So remember each and every Wednesday to grab a copy of the Standard to read the Business Coach column, where I usually write from the Hustle magazine, and also to just chime into this particular conversation. The hashtag is KTN Business Coach at Ian Dennis Network across all social media platforms, at KTN Home across all social media platforms. My name is Ian Dennis, and this has been the Business Coach, where we help entrepreneurs better their businesses.